Excellent afternoon, all. We've been with our pace setter, Honorable Ned Nwoko. There are loads of information that have been going on behind and off the cameras that we all will see after the interview, because he's been educating us. He's very articulate. We've been learning, unlearning, and relearning a lot of things that we all need to know, and at least enlighten ourselves to make sure that our environment is enabling for all of us in terms of embracing each other regardless of whatever religion we practice. Anyways, excellent afternoon again, sir. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here today. It is indeed an honor to be in your midst today, and I must say that you've done wonderfully well, and you've contributed to the society at large, you know, not just Nigeria, in Africa, and as a nation. I believe that your name is not even, you've not gotten to where you should be yet, but with what you've done thus far, it is something worth celebrating. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so, you know, with COVID-19 that has been ongoing, definitely we see that you're keeping safe and you're staying safe because you're strong, you look healthy. So with all the challenges of COVID-19, again, we say, how have you been coping? How are you, sir?
COVID-19 appears to be a blessing in disguise, you know, to us in Africa.
Okay.
We have had to look inwards. Everybody had to look inwards. It has made us to understand that we can actually survive on our own as a country, as a continent. You just imagine that all flights were grounded. All flights were grounded within, and I mean globally, all flights were grounded. Before now, if they had told you that for 6 months there will not be any plane flying to any country, you would say it's not possible.
Absolutely.
You know, so to an extent, we've come to now realize that we can actually survive on our own. You know, we can look inwards, look at how we can be more creative, to be self-sustaining over a longer period of time. Medical surgeons abroad also came to a halt. You didn't hear of people going to Dubai, going to UK, going to America for medical checkups, whether from National Assembly or from the society at large. We all depended exclusively on the medical facilities that are available in Nigeria. What it also tells us is that there is need for us to take care of ours. You know, what must the government do? What must the private sector do to bring our standards up, you know, in various sectors? Schools were shut, and they are still shut, and kids are not dying because they didn't go to school. You know, it also tells us that we can actually do a lot of self-tuition, a lot of home studies and Zoom studies without having to you know, be in schools. So it's a new order, it's a new way of learning. I said, thanks to COVID-19. Of course, teaching us hygiene as well.
Absolutely.
You know, I hated the idea of having to shake hands everywhere I go to. And I was always thinking, how do you avoid that? How do I avoid that without appearing rude? Thanks to COVID-19. I don't think that we will in a hurry, you know, go back to the old ways of shaking hands. Personal hygiene, distancing, they're all new ways, and they're all good for us. You know, all good for us. So we've managed to overcome the challenges. Yes, I don't think that people are really very happy that we are gradually going back to normal, where people are going to work. You know,
where people are even working remotely. People are working from home now.
Yes, but that's it. You know, I mean, a lot of young ones these days are talking about online shopping, online marketing. You know, say new areas, although there before, but not particularly.
Well embraced.
Yes, but now everybody's geared towards embracing the new order. So it's good.
All right. Thank you so much for that submission.
Yeah.
You know, going straight to the business of the day. Honorable, can you please tell us about Ned Nwoko Foundation and what gave birth to that foundation?
My foundation is just like any other foundation, which is a body that is created to help others.
Okay.
In a very nutshell, just helping others.
How did it start?
Just like others started. You just knowing at some point that you have benefited from your society, you want to give back to the society.
Okay.
And it's now up to you to identify an area or areas that you feel you have the capacity or the expertise to invest your money in for the benefit of others. For me, number one was education.
Okay.
I believe in education entirely, you know. You know, when you are educated, you have opportunities. When you're not educated, you might have opportunities, but you would not know it. You know, but as an educated person, you have opportunities, you see it. The vision is clearer with some basic good education.
All right.
So education was one. The other one was environment. Our environment is not what it should be. I feel that we can do a lot more to have a cleaner, safer environment. This was why I went to Antarctica, for example. I feel that Nigeria is generally, there's not been a concerted effort in cleaning up Nigeria. But I'll come to that later, especially on the issue of malaria, on the issue of sanitation. But then the third part of my focus is on culture, culture and tourism. I feel that Nigeria can earn huge sums of money from tourism embedded in culture, because most cultures is what attracts tourism. You know, people go to some places to look at some monuments, for example, go to look at some events. There are many things that we don't understand in Nigeria that we have, but I feel that if we can promote tourism through appreciating our culture, that we can do a lot more than we are doing. It can contribute heavily to the GDP of our nation, creating jobs and all that. Then sports. I love sports. I feel that I can help to grow sports. I feel that I can help to get a university, for example, a sports university, to give our young ones the opportunity to develop their body and mind together. You know, now, most of our sportsmen and women do their best. They do their best from just sheer hard work. There's no sustained plan by any government in Nigeria in promoting sportsmen and women. I feel that that is wrong. You know, we should have an environment where they can grow, to be able to compete with the best globally. So those are my areas of interest.
All right. Thank you so much for taking me through the area of focus, because you've made mention of all sorts of varieties of your humanitarian works, and we're going to at least break into it in bits. But, you know, going straight to malaria eradication project that you mentioned, we understand that malaria is a tropical African disease because of the breed of mosquitoes that causes malaria in our country, Nigeria. So my question is, why an antibiotical journey, so to speak, for an African-dominated disease that we are going through at the moment, especially when it comes to this disease, malaria?
Yes, it's a tropical disease.
African disease?
As it were. It's a scourge that those countries with African, typically African countries, and some parts of Europe, Asia and South America are only experiencing. But it's our own pandemic, as it were. You know, It's an African problem, largely an African problem. 85% of those that die annually from malaria are Africans. And it is not a white man's problem. It was when they first encountered Africa, when they first came. You know, if you read books about the experiences, they tell you that Africa was the white man's grave because of malaria. They couldn't survive it. But they learned over time to take care of themselves on a temporary basis until they return to their country where they are safe, where they feel safe. I feel that for us in Africa, we shouldn't believe that malaria or mosquitoes are part of us. You know, that they are part of us and that there's nothing to be done about it. There are many things that can be done to get rid of mosquitoes.
Do you believe that mosquito can be eradicated in Nigeria, in Africa?
Of course. If I don't believe in it, I won't be doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
You know, I don't just think of something just for the sake of it. I know that this is possible. I come from a village in Delta, Idumuchuboko. There are no mosquitoes where I come from. I know that there are some communities in Benue State where there are no mosquitoes. But certainly where I was born and where I grew up, there are no mosquitoes. But I know why there are no mosquitoes. One, the place is clean. Two, because of the height. We're at 1,000 feet above sea level. So it's colder, cooler than most places. But coming to eradication of malaria in Africa, of course it's possible. There are ways of dealing with this. I undertook the journey to Antarctica, first to create awareness. Antarctica is a very unusual place. It's a place that is very difficult. Not many people go there and come back because of the dangers. There are no trees in Antarctica, no flowers, nothing. No houses, no hotels. Antarctica is the size of Africa. Maybe you don't know this. It is the size of Africa as a continent. Antarctica is a continent. But it's very unique in so many ways. Because of the uniqueness, you know, anybody going there is a huge, it's a huge effort for anybody to go there. That's why I went there first to create awareness. I knew that going there would create awareness for this malaria eradication project. And secondly, because before I went there, I had done my research, and I found out that there are 12 research science stations there, owned by Americans, the British, the French, the Germans, the Russians, the Indians, and so on and so forth. So I needed to meet with the research scientists because eradicating malaria in Africa is not just about cleaning up of the environment. It also, in my own understanding, will include trying to discover vaccine, anti-malaria vaccine. In so many, I mean, we all know it, that when you're born, you have a kid, there are many vaccines for the polios, for measles, for whatever it is. But I always ask myself, how come there are no vaccines for malaria? Is it because it is not a white man's problem? Because if it were, maybe they would have invested in it, as they are now invested in vaccine search for COVID-19, isn't it? You hear the Russians, the British, the Americans, all of them scampering, trying to discover vaccine. And I bet you that if malaria were to be a global problem, we would have found, they would have discovered an appropriate vaccine or vaccines. There would be multiple choices for you to make when you decide to have a vaccine. So I just felt that meeting with a scientist was the way forward, which I did, and I'm glad I did because They pointed me in the right direction in trying to get a vaccine developed, which we are working on now with the help of professors and scientists together. But malaria can't just become a thing of the past by just talking about vaccines. That's why we're also looking at how to clean up the environment. The environment in Nigeria, and largely other countries in Africa, are quite a terrible sight. You come from Lagos, I'm sure you have refuse dumps everywhere. Absolutely. In Abuja here also, there are refuse dumps everywhere. If every city you go to, there are refuse dumps. Why do we, in this day and age, still have refuse dumps? You don't have that in UK. You don't have it in America. You don't have it in Japan. You know, you don't have refuse dumps. And refuse dumps is a big host for malaria, for mosquitoes, and such other things. So I thought that the best way to start the sanitation of Nigeria is to look at how we can recycle waste, the collection and recycling. That's waste management.
Yes.
Has to be done holistically, has to be organized, so that if refuse is collected from your homes, you know, they should be done in such a way that we know which waste bin your papers are going to go into, which one the bottles, the food. You know, you have them so that from your home, the management starts up until it gets to the recycling centers, and then it becomes into some products that are usable. You know, if this is done, particularly if we're able to get every state to have at least 3 waste management centers, one in Eastern Equatorial District. Before you know it, the environment will be clean. Before you know it, the gutters will be unlocked. There's a lot of dirt in our gutters, in the streets, in the homes. So it's a major project that requires everybody's effort.
All right.
Governments at every level must be involved in this. Every Nigerian is a stakeholder in this, because we all have malaria.
Absolutely.
You know, at some point or the other. We
Absolutely.
must work towards a healthier and cleaner environment. It's just that maybe we don't know. People don't know. People don't seem to understand that we need everybody. We need all hands on deck, as they say, on this.
All right. Thank you so much for that submission and for educating us and also sharing with us the milestone projection or projects that you've been doing thus far, especially when it comes to the project malaria. I presume that this project is just 1 year initiative. Less than 1 year initiative.
Yes.
And recently you pledged about $750,000 for the research of vaccine, you know, to cure the killer disease malaria itself. You know, I cannot help but ask, because while you were talking about it takes every one of us to come together, because this is what affects us all. So my question now is, is it a single donor research project or an open what's it called, project for other like minds in Africa and beyond to partner with you, and are the government, like you mentioned earlier, are the government on board with you on this project?
Well, first of all, the pledge of $750,000 was just the beginning. Research would take into malaria and to be able to get to what we want. We're looking at over $100 million. You know, so it's not a child's play. It requires a lot of time and money to make this happen. At this point in time, we're not looking at any donors. I am not going to be
waiting on anybody.
That's what but if I do, we probably wouldn't get
in
the
the first place. Yeah.
Yes. So I am not going to be asking for any donor, especially foreign. we will not do that. That is something that I will not do. I have some partners within Nigeria who are working with me. I'm also not looking at them contributing, but I need a team of partners. I am able to work on this on my own. The area where I need everybody is on sanitation. You know, when it comes to cleaning up Nigeria, to clean Nigeria, to fumigate Nigeria, because everyone must be fumigated.
Yes.
You know, and it must be done simultaneously. Let me just give you one instance why it must be done simultaneously. If you live in a flat or in a house and you fumigate your house, and your neighbor doesn't fumigate his or hers, after fumigating your house, you know, for the mosquitoes that are unfortunate, you're going to kill them, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
You're going to kill them. And for those that don't die, they migrate to your neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And then when your neighbors fumigate their own, they migrate back to you. So the cycle, vicious cycle, continues. But if we all organize to fumigate Nigeria about the same time, and the government announces that from, say, for example, 2nd of November to the 17th of November, all houses are to be fumigated. And beyond that, all outside to be fumigated. It will be done in such an organized way that there will not be any space for mosquitoes to run to. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You know, because as we do it, and also nighttime, we've arranged for companies, and part of my visit to Antarctica was the meeting with a Canadian company that does fumigation, aerial fumigation. So we met with them, and we've done enough research now to know that it is possible to fumigate Nigeria from the air. You know, so whilst people are sleeping, all that could be done over a period of a month.
Absolutely.
Yes, all that will be done for a period of 1 month. So there'll be a lockdown. There'll be a lockdown that we've just experienced with COVID-19. But we don't need a lockdown for 6 months. You can imagine a Nigeria free of malaria, free of mosquitoes. You know, so all the people that are dying will be eaten out of the past. All the people taking time off work because they are sick for malaria will be eaten out of the past. Many people who are prevented or who are discouraged from coming to Africa. Because there are many people who are willing tourists to come to Nigeria, but they don't come because they say, "Oh, don't go. You're going to have malaria and you're going to die." You know, so they don't venture into Africa. But you can imagine where United Nations through WHO decides that Nigeria is now malaria free, which happens in some other countries, smaller than us.
Yeah,
but it can be done here, and this is what we're aiming at.
All right, sir. So listening to you, of course, I'm not doubting the possibility of, God's, what's it called, the power and possibility of God's intervention in all of this, especially
we're not asking for God's intervention.
Yeah, but when it comes to science and technology,
something that we need to do. If we don't do it, God will not help us.
Okay,
so don't go that way at all. Let me tell you, we have work to do to clean up our environments.
Okay.
Everybody, we must look at what has to be done and do it.
Okay.
And instead of praying, we should just do it, and God will help us after doing it, not before doing it.
All right. So
God is not going to come down and fight mosquitoes on our behalf.
All right, sir.
Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
God will not help us to clean our environment.
Yes.
You know, we must understand that religion shouldn't be a problem. The way I know it's another story
about, yeah.
You know, but I didn't think that you were one of those that pray for everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely no. But the question is, I understand the power of technology, you know, in all of this. But, you know,
we're not talking about technology. We're talking about individual commitment.
Yes, individual commitment, but at least with the help of fumigation and the likes and all the research that you've been doing internationally. So my question is, are there local researchers that are also on board in making sure that we are malaria-free in Nigeria?
Of course, yeah, there are many people, many NGOs smaller groups also working on it, and we're collaborating with them.
Okay.
We're sharing information with them.
Okay.
So at the time when federal government now decides that it is time to lock down, to implement what we are proposing, everybody will be on board. You know, we've just been asking for volunteers and for coordinators. I'm sure you would have read about it.
Yes.
You know, so everybody is a volunteer.
All right. So talking about everybody being a volunteer, I know this huge project that it will benefit Nigerians and even Africa as a whole. So the question is federal government supportive in terms of the finance, one, when it comes to enabling environment, so which is part of the things that you've been discussing thus far, and thirdly, the policies and regulation framework that you need to make sure that this become a success.
All those are details. We are working with federal government.
Okay.
We believe that everybody will come on board. Every government at every level, from local governments to state and to federal, and every citizen.
Okay.
We don't need to belabor the point that malaria is such a huge problem in Africa. I suffer from malaria practically every other month myself, and I know what I go through. I know how many times I'm unable to go to work. You know how many man hours are lost because I'm not able to go to work because of malaria. We also know the consequences, long-term consequences of the many drugs that we take. You know, so you are taking Nivaquine or whatever you're taking. You know, we know the long-term damages to our body organs, the kidney, the liver, the heart, and all that. You know, if you really want to know how strong malaria medicines are, take it without eating food. Then you see the reaction. You know, and of course, you know, talking about drugs, most of the manufacturers of the various malaria drugs are either Europeans or Americans. You know, why have they not invested in vaccine, in search for vaccine? Why not? Ask yourself that question. It is simply because they understand that if today there's a vaccine for malaria, it means one thing, that you wouldn't need drugs anymore. All those drug companies will fold up. They'll go into liquidation, wouldn't they? Because we're not going to buy drugs anymore. Especially in a country like Nigeria where there are over 200 million people. So we're a big market for them, big market for their products. So once there's a vaccine or vaccines that you can take, every newborn baby born can take, that will stop malaria, it means that there's no more market for them. And if that happens, like I said, they will go into liquidation. And they will not be happy for this to happen. Do you think they'll be happy? They won't be happy. So they will fight back. And I don't think that people, I've had many people expressing concern that these big pharmaceutical companies are going to fight back. But for me, I'm a Nigerian, and I have a choice to make, and I've made a choice to fight for humanity. All right,
thank you so much for that. You know, I cannot help but say this, that it takes a visionary man to change the course of someone who can help us get to that place that we've all been craving for, and that is exactly what he has been sharing with us thus far, especially when it comes to impacting the society that he lives in and all of the challenges that we've been facing thus far. Sir, thank you so much for educating us, especially when it comes to your project on malaria.